Get back to your seat before I have you arrested. You people need to learn where you belong. Rebecca Morrison's fingers dug into the child's arm. Hard. I'm sorry, ma'am. I just need to ask my mom if... Your mom? Rebecca laughed. Sharp, mocking. Sure she is. Probably bought that seat with food stamps. Now move. She yanked Elijah down the aisle. His backpack crashed against the armrests. His sneakers dragged. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Please, you're hurting me. Shut up. Kids like you always play victim. Her voice rose. Every passenger could hear. I've been doing this for 15 years. I know trash when I see it. Elijah's tears fell. Silent. His arm turned red where she gripped. From business class, a woman's voice, cold as steel. Let go of my son. Have you ever watched someone destroy a child, then watched that child's mother destroy their entire life seconds later? 3 hours earlier, Dr. Naomi Richardson closed her laptop in the Atlanta airport lounge. Chief Operating Officer of Skyward Airlines. 18 years climbing from flight attendant to the executive suite. Today was her quarterly surprise inspection. No one on flight S-447 knew she was coming. She checked her watch. Boarding started in 20 minutes. Her phone buzzed. A photo from her mother. Elijah grinning at the gate, holding his spacebook. The caption read, "He's so excited for Chicago, says he wants to see the bean." Naomi smiled. Her son, 8 years old, curious about everything, kind to everyone. She'd raised him alone since Marcus died 3 years ago. Car accident, drunk driver. Some wounds never fully heal. She typed back, "Make sure he stays with you, Mom. If he needs anything, tell him to come find me in business class." Her mother replied instantly, "Will do. You worry too much." But Naomi is always worried. A black woman in corporate America. A single mother. She'd learned early. You couldn't afford mistakes. You worked twice as hard, smiled through twice as much. And you protected your child from a world that didn't always see his humanity. She gathered her things and headed to the gate. The aircraft smelled like recycled air and cleaning solution. Naomi slipped into seat 3A. Business class. She wore simple black slacks and a cream blouse. Professional but unremarkable. Her ID badge stayed hidden in her purse. That was the point of these inspections. See what really happened when no one knew the boss was watching. She pulled out her tablet. Customer satisfaction reports, complaint logs, employee performance metrics. Her eyes caught a name that appeared repeatedly. Rebecca Morrison, gate agent complaints, passenger feedback, 15 incidents in 18 months. Each one dismissed by the regional manager with notes like personality conflict or passenger overreacting. Naomi made a mental note. This crew today, she'd watch them closely. Down in economy, Elijah bounced in seat 18C. His grandmother settled beside him in 18B. She was already tired. The early morning flight, the airport crowds. She closed her eyes almost immediately after buckling in. Elijah didn't mind. He had his book. Chapter 7, Black Holes and Event Horizons. He read about gravity so strong that nothing escaped, not even light. A flight attendant pushed a cart past. Blonde hair pulled tight. Name tag read, Morrison. She stopped at row 16. A South Asian man asked for water. Rebecca's smile looked painted on. She handed him a cup, then muttered under her breath as she walked away. Can't even wait 5 minutes. The man's face fell. He heard her. Elijah watched. Something felt wrong. His mom always said, pay attention to how people treat others when they think no one important is watching. That's when you see who they really are. He went back to his book. Up in business class, Naomi observed the same interaction. She saw Rebecca's body language, the heavy sigh, the eye roll, the performative politeness that dripped with contempt. She opened her notes app, typed, Morrison, observe closely. Possible pattern behavior. Rebecca appeared in business class next, offering drinks. Her voice changed completely. Warm, bubbly. She laughed at a white passenger's joke, complimented another's dress. This was a different person than the one who'd just sneered at the economy. Naomi knew this routine. She'd lived it. The code switching, the mask. But Rebecca's version was inverted. Cruelty for some, charm for others. All based on what she saw when she looked at someone's face. The flight attendant walked past Naomi's row without a second glance. Didn't recognize her. Good. Naomi had been on hundreds of flights. She knew every regulation, every policy, every loophole. She'd written half of them herself when she became COO. Policy 4.7.3. Passenger dignity and non-discrimination. Zero tolerance for profiling. Mandatory intervention training for all crew. On paper, it was perfect. But paper didn't stop people like Rebecca Morrison. People who'd learned to hide their hatred just well enough. Who knew which complaints got buried? Who had friends in management willing to look the other way? Naomi had spent 3 years trying to change the culture from the top down. Training programs, oversight committees, anonymous reporting systems. Sometimes she wondered if it was working. An hour into the flight, Elijah felt the pressure in his bladder. He looked at his grandmother, still sleeping, mouth slightly open. She'd been up since 4 a.m. helping him pack. He remembered his mom's instructions. If you need anything, come find me. He unbuckled quietly, stood. His spacebook tucked under his arm. He started toward business class. Rebecca Morrison was restocking the beverage cart at row 12. She saw him coming. Rebecca's cart blocked the aisle. Metal. Heavy. Impossible to pass. Elijah stopped. Polite. Patient. "Excuse me, ma'am." She didn't look up. Ice clinked as she arranged bottles. Cans shifted. Her movements were sharp, deliberate, making him wait. "Ma'am?" His voice is smaller now. Rebecca straightened, looked down. Her eyes swept over him, taking inventory, his brown skin, his worn sneakers, his public school backpack. She'd already decided. "Where do you think you're going?" "I need to ask my mom if I can use the bathroom. She's in seat 3A. The laugh came quick, harsh. "Seat 3A? Business class?" She crossed her arms. "Sure she is, sweetheart, and I'm the Queen of England." "She really is. My mom is Dr. Richardson. She told me to come get her if—" "Doctor?" Rebecca's voice rose, loud enough for nearby passengers to hear. "Right. Dr. Richardson in business class, that's a good story." She leaned down. Her face was close to his. "You know what I think? I think you're making things up. I think your grandmother is sleeping right back there, and you're trying to sneak where you don't belong." Elijah's cheeks burned. "I'm not lying. My mom—" "Back to your seat. Now." Her hand landed on his shoulder. Firm. Too firm. "But I really need the bathroom. Should have thought of that before you decided to wander around." Her fingers tightened, steering him backward. Elijah tried to hold his ground. "Please, ma'am, just let me ask her." "I said move." She pushed. Not hard enough to knock him down, hard enough to make her point. A man in row 13 looked up from his tablet. "Hey, maybe just let the kid—" Rebecca's head snapped toward him. "Sir, I'm handling this. Please don't interfere with crew operations." The man hesitated, then looked back down, stayed silent. She turned back to Elijah. Her voice dropped, quieter now, more dangerous. "Listen carefully. These people always think the rules don't apply to them. Always got some story, some excuse. But on this aircraft, I make the rules. Understand?" Tears pricked Elijah's eyes. He blinked hard, tried to keep them back. "I just want my mom." Your mom is sleeping in the economy where she belongs. Now get back there before I call the air marshal. That's my grandma sleeping. My mom is... Rebecca's hand clamped around his upper arm. Both hands now, her nails dug through his sleeve. Enough! She pulled. Hard. Elijah stumbled backward. His backpack swung, hit an armrest. The corner caught, yanked him sideways. Rebecca didn't slow down, just pulled harder. Ow, you're hurting me! Then stop resisting. She dragged him past row 13, past 14. His feet struggled to keep up. One sneaker caught on the carpet. He almost fell. Please. Kids like you need to learn. Actions have consequences. Her voice carried down the aisle now, making sure everyone heard, making an example. Row 15. A woman gasped, pulled out her phone, started recording. Row 16. The South Asian man stood halfway. Miss, he's just a child. Sit down, sir. This is none of your concern. Row 17. Another passenger filming, then another. Elijah's tears fell now. He couldn't stop them. His arm throbbed where she gripped. His face burned with humiliation. Everyone was watching. Everyone saw him being dragged like he'd done something terrible. I didn't do anything wrong, he whispered. That's what they all say. His grandmother's voice cut through. What in God's name? She was standing now, fully awake, eyes wide. Let go of my grandson! Rebecca's grip tightened. Ma'am, your child was attempting to access restricted areas. Sit down, or you'll be reported for interfering. Restricted? He was going to find his mother. His mother in business class? Rebecca's laugh was cruel. Right. Ma'am, control your family or law enforcement will be waiting at the gate. His mother is in business class. Dr. Naomi Richardson. She's... Sure she is. Rebecca's tone dripped with disbelief. And I suppose she's a brain surgeon too? Maybe a lawyer? You people always have these elaborate stories. The words hung in the air. You people. Several passengers shifted uncomfortably. A younger flight attendant, Paige, appeared from the forward galley. Her eyes went wide. Rebecca, what's... I'm handling it. Rebecca didn't even look at her. Go check on business class. But maybe we should... I said I'm handling it. The steel in her voice made Paige flinch. Paige hesitated, looked at Elijah, looked at the passengers recording, then walked away. Said nothing. Did nothing. Elijah tried once more to pull free. You're hurting my arm. If you'd just listened from the start... Rebecca yanked him harder. His backpack fell, thudded on the floor. The space book slid out. Pages bent. My book? Forget the book. You're going back to your seat and you're staying there. And if I see you out of that seat again, I'm having security remove your entire family from this aircraft. Do you understand me? Elijah nodded, tears streaming, throat tight. His grandmother pushed past other passengers, reached them. Take your hands off him right now. Rebecca finally released him, but didn't step back, didn't apologize. Instead, she pulled out her radio. This is Morrison. I need the captain informed we have a disruptive passenger situation in the economy. Possible family removal upon landing. What? His grandmother's voice shook with rage. We haven't done anything. Your grandson violated FAA regulations by... He's 8 years old. He needed to use the bathroom. He refused to follow crew instructions. He attempted to access areas outside his ticketed class. And now you're being verbally aggressive toward the crew. Rebecca was building a case. Right there. Each word is calculated. That's 3 violations. A male flight attendant appeared. Young, black, name tag read Marcus. His face showed immediate concern. Something wasn't right here. Rebecca, what's going on? Uncooperative passengers. I need you to get Captain Hendricks. Marcus looked at Elijah, at the red marks on his arm, at the tears on his face, at the grandmother shaking with fury. The passengers recorded everything. His instincts screamed this was wrong. Maybe we should just get the captain. Rebecca's words came through clenched teeth. Marcus met Elijah's eyes, saw something there: pain, confusion, innocence. He made a decision. I'll get him. He turned toward business class, started walking. That's when a voice came from behind him. Low, controlled, absolutely furious. What are you doing to my son? Everyone turned. A woman stood in the aisle. Business class. Seat 3A. Black, professional. Her face was a mask of barely contained rage. Rebecca's eyes narrowed. Ma'am, return to your seat. This is crew business. The woman didn't move, didn't blink. I asked you a question. What are you doing to my son? Rebecca's laugh was automatic, dismissive. Ma'am, I don't know what you think you... Elijah. The woman's voice softened, just for him. Come here, baby. Elijah broke into a run, nearly tripped over his backpack, crashed into his mother's arms. She knelt, held him. Her hands were gentle as she examined his arm. The red marks, the finger-shaped bruises are already forming. Did she do this to you? He nodded, couldn't speak, just cried into her shoulder. Naomi stood, slowly, her eyes locked on Rebecca. You put your hands on my child. Ma'am, your child was violating regulations. I have every right to To what? Assault an 8-year-old? Naomi's voice was ice. To drag him down an aisle because he asked to use the bathroom? He was trying to access business class without authorization. He was trying to find me. His mother. Like I told him to do if he needed anything. She took a step forward. Now, you're going to tell me your name and employee ID number. Rebecca's chin lifted, defiant. Rebecca Morrison, employee 47293, 15 years with this airline. She paused. Let that sink in. And you are? Naomi didn't answer, not yet. Are you aware of Company Policy 4.7.3 regarding passenger dignity and non-discrimination? Rebecca's eyes flickered. Uncertainty. Just a flash. I know the policies I need to know. Do you? Because from where I'm standing, you just violated about 6 different regulations. You physically restrained a minor without cause. You used coded racist language. These people, where you belong, which multiple passengers recorded. You escalated instead of de-escalated. You threatened my family with removal based on 0 legitimate grounds. Naomi's voice never rose. Every word is precise, deadly. Should I continue? I don't have to explain myself to you. But Rebecca's confidence was cracking. Something about this woman, the way she spoke, the way she carried herself. Actually, you do. Naomi pulled out her phone, made a call. This is Richardson. I need security standing by at gate C14 in Chicago. Priority situation. She ended the call, looked back at Rebecca. Now, where were we? Marcus had stopped walking, turned back. His face showed recognition, slowly, then completely. Dr. Richardson? Rebecca's head snapped toward him. What? This is Dr. Naomi Richardson. Marcus's voice was quiet, certain. Chief Operating Officer? The color drained from Rebecca's face. The cabin went silent. Even the engine noise seemed to fade. Rebecca's mouth opened, closed, opened again. No, that's not... Not what? Naomi's voice remained level, calm, the kind of calm that comes before a storm. Not possible. Not what you expected. I mean... Rebecca's hands started shaking. She clasped them together. If I'd known... Know what? That I had authority? Naomi took another step closer. So it's acceptable to abuse a child as long as his mother can't fight back? No, that's not what I meant. It's not... Rebecca's voice climbed higher, desperate. I was just doing my job. He was out of his seat. Protocol says treat every passenger with dignity. Protocol says de-escalate. Protocol says never use physical force unless there's an immediate safety threat. Naomi's eyes were steel. Was my 8-year-old son a safety threat? Rebecca looked around, searching for support, for backup, for anything. The passengers stared back. Every phone is still recording. Paige stood frozen near the galley. Marcus waited, watching. He wouldn't listen. He kept trying to push past my cart. He's a child. He needed the bathroom. He was coming to ask permission from his mother. Naomi knelt again, put her hand on Elijah's shoulder. Did you try to push past her cart, baby? Elijah shook his head. His voice came small, broken. I said, excuse me. I was polite. I promise, Mommy. I know you were. She kissed his forehead, stood back up. Her eyes found Rebecca again. He said, excuse me. He explained where he was going, and you decided to physically drag him. Why? I thought he was lying. Why? The question hung there, heavy. Everyone knew the answer. No one wanted to say it. Rebecca's face flushed red. It wasn't about... I've had passengers lie before about... About what? Naomi pressed. About being in business class? About having family there? Or about having the right to be treated like a human being? You're twisting my words. Am I? Naomi pulled out her phone, pulled up a file. Your personnel record shows 27 complaints in 15 years. 24 of those complaints were from passengers of color. That's 89%. Want to explain that statistical anomaly? Rebecca's eyes went wide. How do you... Those were all resolved. HR cleared me every time. HR buried them. Your brother-in-law is the regional manager, Dennis Morrison. He flagged every complaint as unsubstantiated without proper investigation. Naomi's voice got quieter, more dangerous. I've been reviewing those files for 3 months, waiting to see if the pattern continued. She looked around the cabin, at the passengers, on the phone. Thank you for removing all doubt. Rebecca's legs looked unsteady. She grabbed the nearest seat back for support. Please, Dr. Richardson, I have 2 kids in college. I have a mortgage. This job is everything. And my son is everything to me. But you didn't think about that when you put your hands on him, did you? I made a mistake. People make mistakes. This wasn't a mistake. Naomi's grandmother stepped forward. Her voice shook with fury. You called us you people. You said he needed to learn his place. You said we bought our tickets with food stamps. Rebecca spun toward her. I never said... I recorded it. A passenger in row 14 held up his phone. Got the whole thing. Audio's crystal clear. Me too. Row 15. I got the part where she grabbed him. Row 16. Rebecca looked around wildly, trapped. You can't... Those recordings are... Passengers aren't allowed to... Actually, they are. Marcus spoke up. He'd pulled out his tablet. FAA regulations allow passenger documentation of crew interactions. Section 4.9.2. Rebecca's face twisted, anger replacing fear. Of course you'd side with her. You people always stick together. The words fell like acid. Marcus's face went hard. Excuse me? You heard me. This is about race. That's all this is. Stop talking. Naomi's voice cut like a blade. Right now. Stop talking. But Rebecca was spiraling. I've given 15 years to this company. 15 years. And now one complaint and I'm... 27 complaints, Naomi corrected. 27 people tried to tell your supervisors you were abusing your authority. 27 people were ignored. She paused. Let that sink in. And one of those complaints was from me. Rebecca froze. 7 years ago, Boston to Miami wrote, I was dead-heading home. You spilled coffee on me, called me uppity when I asked for napkins. Naomi's voice was steady, but pain bled through. Said maybe I should fly coach if I couldn't handle business class standards. Rebecca's face went white. I don't remember. Of course you don't. It was nothing to you. Just another day. Naomi's hands clenched. I filed a complaint. Dennis Morrison offered me 5,000 miles to drop it. I took them. I told myself I'd change things when I had power. She looked at Elijah, at the marks on his arm. I got that power, and today you gave me the evidence I needed. The cockpit door opened. Captain Hendricks emerged, gray at the temples. He looked annoyed, rushed. Then he saw Naomi. Recognition hit him like a wall. Dr. Richardson. His voice changed completely. I didn't know you were on this flight. Surprise inspection, Captain. She gestured to Rebecca. Ms. Morrison has provided quite the demonstration. Hendricks looked between them. Saw Elijah crying. Saw the grandmother furious. Saw the passengers with phones. His jaw tightened. Tell me what happened. Rebecca jumped in first, words tumbling out. Captain, there's been a misunderstanding. The child was out of his seat. I asked him to return. His family is making false... Captain! Naomi's voice cut through. Calm. Clear. Ms. Morrison physically assaulted my 8-year-old son. She used racist language. She violated policies 4.7.3, 6.2.1, and 8.9.4. Multiple passenger recordings confirm it. Hendricks closed his eyes briefly. Ms. Morrison, did you put your hands on a passenger? Rebecca hesitated. He needed to return to his seat. I was... Yes or no? Yes, but... Did you use force? Her voice got smaller. I guided him. Yes or no? Yes. Barely a whisper. Hendricks turned to Marcus. Escort Ms. Morrison to the rear galley. She's relieved of duty immediately. No passenger contact. Captain, please. Rebecca reached for him. That's an order. Marcus stepped forward. Ms. Morrison, this way. Rebecca looked around one last time, at Naomi, at Elijah, at the passengers. Then she walked, head down, hands trembling. Hendricks waited until they were gone, turned to Naomi. Dr. Richardson, I'm so sorry. You couldn't have known. That's why I fly incognito. She touched Elijah's hair. But now you do know. Paige still stood nearby, frozen. Naomi looked at her. You saw everything, didn't you? Paige's face crumpled. Yes. And you said nothing. I didn't know what to do. Rebecca's friends with management, people who speak up get pushed out. Tears formed. I'm sorry. You should have stopped her. That's going in your report, too. Paige nodded, accepted it. Hendricks pulled out his radio. I need security and supervisors at Gate C-14. Situation requiring immediate action. He looked at Naomi. What else do you need? Medical for my son. Documentation of injuries. Contact information for everyone who recorded. And I want Morrison escorted off this aircraft the moment we land. Understood. Naomi knelt in front of Elijah, cupped his face. You okay, baby? He nodded, eyes still wet. Mom? Why did she hate me? The question broke her heart. She pulled him close. She doesn't hate you. She hates herself. People who hate themselves try to make everyone else feel small. She kissed his head. What she did says everything about her and nothing about you. Understand? I think so. Good. She stood, took his hand, looked at her mother. Mom, take him back to your seats. Her mother nodded, led Elijah away. Marcus picked up the spacebook, smoothed the pages, brought it to Elijah. Here you go, buddy. Black holes, huh? Cool topic. Elijah managed a small smile. Thanks. They disappeared down the aisle. Naomi turned back to Hendricks. Professional mask in place. Captain, when we land, I'll need your full cooperation. Cockpit recordings, flight data, crew statements, everything. You'll have it. How's your crew usually? Any concerns? He hesitated. Morrison's been difficult, but management always backed her, made questioning her not worth the trouble. That ends today. Yes, ma'am. Naomi walked back to business class, sat down, pulled out her phone, found the CEO's direct line. The call connected after one ring. Naomi, what's wrong? Richard, we have a problem. By the time we land, it's going to be national news. She told him everything. The aircraft descended through clouds. Chicago skyline visible through windows. 20 minutes to landing. In the rear galley, Rebecca sat on a jump seat. Marcus stood nearby, silent. She'd tried talking 3 times. He'd said nothing, just stood there. Her phone buzzed. Text from Dennis, her brother-in-law, the regional manager. What the hell happened? Corporate just called? Are you insane? Her fingers shook, typing back. I didn't know who she was. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. That doesn't matter. You put hands on a kid. On her kid. I can't protect you from this. Rebecca stared at the screen. Can't protect you. The words made her stomach drop. 15 years of immunity. Gone in 15 minutes. Up in business class, Naomi ended her call with CEO Richard Carter. He'd listened without interrupting. Send me everything, he'd said. Videos, witness statements, her file, before you land. You'll have it. Naomi. His voice softened. How's Elijah? Scared. Hurt. Confused. She looked toward the economy. He asked me why she hated him. Richard exhaled slowly. We're going to fix this. All of it. Now she sat organizing files. The videos from passengers uploaded to her secure server. 6 different angles. Crystal clear audio. Rebecca saying, these people, and learn your place. Elijah's tears. The red marks. Evidence that couldn't be buried. Her phone buzzed. Text from Marcus. 2 words. She's breaking. Naomi stood. Walked toward the back. Past her mother and Elijah. Her son had his head on his grandmother's shoulder, eyes closed, exhausted from crying. She reached the rear galley. Rebecca looked up, face blotchy, mascara smeared. She'd been crying. Dr. Richardson, please, can we talk? Naomi crossed her arms. Talk. I know I messed up, but please understand. I've been under stress. My daughter's tuition is due. My son needs surgery. My husband lost his job. Words tumbling fast, desperate. I can't lose this job. We'll lose everything. You should have thought about that before. I didn't know. If I'd known who you were... There it is. Naomi's voice went cold. If you'd known I had power, you would have behaved differently. But any other black child? Fair game. Rebecca's mouth opened. Closed. That's what you're really saying. Sorry you got caught. Not sorry for what you did. No, I'm sorry for both. I am! Rebecca stood. Please, I'll do anything. Training, community service, public apology, whatever you want. Just don't fire me. Naomi studied her. This woman who'd terrorized her child, who'd done it 26 times before to others. You know what the worst part is? Naomi's voice was quiet, sad. You don't even see it. Every complaint in your file represents a real person, real humiliation, real pain. She pulled out her phone, showed a file. Janet Williams, 4 years ago. Black woman flying to her mother's funeral. You made her move seats 3 times. She missed saying goodbye because she got off the plane. Rebecca's face went pale. Marcus Thompson, 12 years old. You accused him of stealing headphones, made his father empty his bag in front of everyone. They were in the seat pocket. Naomi scrolled. Dr. James Carter, 6 months ago. You told him to move to economy. Needed his seat for a real business class passenger. He was already in his assigned seat. She lowered the phone. 27 complaints, 27 people. And Dennis Morrison made them all disappear. Rebecca was crying now, full sobs. I never meant. Yes, you did. You meant every word. Because you had the uniform. You had authority. Naomi stepped closer. But authority is temporary, borrowed, conditional. She held up her phone, showed the screen. Rebecca Morrison. Status, suspended pending investigation. As of 10 minutes ago, you have no authority, no uniform, no protection. Rebecca stared, the finality hitting her. What happens now? You land. Security escorts you to an office. You give a statement, then you go home and wait. Naomi's voice was professional, flat. Investigation takes 2 weeks. You'll be interviewed by HR, legal, and an external ethics board. Every complaint re-examined. Every person you hurt contacted me. And then? Then the company decides. But I'm the COO. I make the recommendation. Naomi met her eyes. Termination, for cause, no severance, no references, and I'm forwarding everything to the FAA for certification review. Rebecca's legs gave out. She sat hard on the jump seat. You're taking everything. No, you took everything. From 27 people. Naomi's voice was ice. I'm making sure you can't take from anyone else ever again. The announcement came. Captain Hendricks. Flight attendants, prepare for landing. Naomi turned to Marcus. Stay with her until the gate. Don't let her talk to passengers. Yes, ma'am. Naomi walked back, past passengers who'd recorded, past ones who'd stayed silent, past her mother and son. She sat, buckled in, felt the descent begin. Her phone buzzed. Text from Richard Carter. Security confirmed. The media's already at the gate. This is going to be big. Naomi typed back. Good. Let it be big. Let everyone see what happens when you abuse the powerless. She sent it. Looked out the window. The city grew closer. 15 years Rebecca had gotten away with it. 15 years of buried complaints. Not anymore. The wheels touched down. Smooth. Final. Justice had landed. The aircraft rolled to gate C-14. The seatbelt sign dinged off. Passengers stayed seated. Watching. Waiting. Through the window, Naomi saw them. 3 security officers, 2 skyward supervisors, and cameras. News crews with lights and microphones. Word had traveled fast. Captain Hendricks spoke over the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, remain seated. We have personnel who need to deplane first. Thank you for your cooperation. The door opened. 2 officers boarded. A woman followed. Senior Vice President Kathleen Brooks. She walked straight to Naomi. Dr. Richardson? Kathleen? Richard called. Is Elijah okay? Physically, yes. Emotionally? Naomi shook her head. We'll see. Where's Morrison? Rear galley. Kathleen nodded to the officers. They moved down the aisle. Passengers watched. Phones recording. In the galley, Rebecca looked up, saw the uniforms, started crying. Ms. Morrison, the lead officer's voice was neutral. Come with us. Am I being arrested? No, ma'am. Security office for questioning. They escorted her down the aisle. Every passenger watched. Rebecca kept her head down, tried to hide her face. Row 18. She passed Elijah. Their eyes met for a second. Rebecca's face crumpled. She looked away, kept walking. At the door, cameras flashed. News crews shouted. Ms. Morrison, did you assault a child? Do you have a statement? Security pushed through, led Rebecca down the jetway. Cameras followed. Inside, Kathleen approached Elijah, knelt in the aisle, gentle. Hi, Elijah. I'm Kathleen. I work with your mom. Soft smile. I heard you had a scary experience. I'm so sorry. Would it be okay if a doctor checked your arm? He looked at his grandmother. She squeezed his hand. It's okay, baby. Okay, he whispered. Kathleen spoke into her radio. Send medicine to the gate, pediatric if possible. She turned to Naomi. Private room ready. Medical examination, documentation. Then you can take him home. What about passenger statements? Already collecting contact information. We'll have formal statements by tonight. Naomi looked around the cabin, made eye contact with the man in row 14. Thank you, she said, loud enough for others to hear. All of you who recorded, who spoke up, thank you. A woman in row 16 spoke. I have a son his age. What she did... Voice cracking. I'll testify anywhere. Me too, said the man in row 14. And me. Row 15. One by one. Voices, witnesses, people refusing to look away. Passengers began deplaning. Many stopped, touched Naomi's shoulder, knelt by Elijah, told him he was brave. Not his fault. An older white woman stopped, tears in her eyes. I should have said something sooner. I'm sorry. Naomi looked at her. You're saying something now. That matters. Finally, the cabin was empty. Kathleen gestured to the door. Ready? Naomi took Elijah's hand. Her mother took his other hand. They walked together, past the seat where it happened, past the galley. At the gate, a paramedic waited. Young woman, soft smile. Hi, I'm Sarah. Mind if I look at that arm? Elijah nodded. They moved to a private room. Sarah examined him gently, took photos of the bruising, 5 distinct finger marks, clear as day. You're going to be okay, sweetheart, Sarah said. These will fade in a few days. She looked at Naomi. I'm documenting this as evidence of assault. Photos and report filed with airport police and legal. Thank you. Sarah gave Elijah a sticker, a cartoon airplane. He took it, didn't smile, just held it. Kathleen's phone buzzed. She read, looked at Naomi. Morrison just gave her statement, claims it was a misunderstanding, says she used minimal force for safety. Naomi's jaw tightened. Of course. Doesn't matter. We have 6 videos that contradict her. Kathleen showed her phone. And this just went viral. 4 million views. Hashtag Skyward Abuse is trending. Naomi saw the screen. Rebecca dragging Elijah. The confrontation. The recognition moment. The internet had decided. Swift. Brutal. Final. What about Paige? Suspended. 5 days without pay. Mandatory retraining. Naomi nodded. I want to take my son home. Of course. Kathleen handed her a card. My direct line. Call any time. They collected their bags, walked through the terminal. People stared. Most gave them space. At baggage claim, Naomi's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Messages, emails, news requests. She silenced it. Elijah held her hand tight. "Mom, are we in trouble?" "No, baby, we're not. She is." "Good." His voice is small but certain. "She was mean." "Yes, but she can't be mean to anyone else now." They got in the car. Naomi adjusted the mirror. Saw Elijah in back. Safe, but changed. She'd get him therapy, help him process, do everything right. But some wounds don't fully heal. She started the engine, pulled out, headed home. Behind them, Rebecca Morrison sat in a security office, waiting. Career over. Life unraveling. Justice moved fast when it finally came. 3 days later, the video had 20 million views. Every major network covered it. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. They all showed the same footage. Rebecca dragging Elijah. Her words. "These people. Learn your place." The public reaction was immediate. Brutal. Skyward Airlines stock dropped 4%. Boycott hashtags trended. Activist groups organized airport protests. The NAACP demanded systemic change. Rebecca's face was everywhere. Memes, think pieces, Twitter threads. Someone found her Facebook. Screenshots of old posts, coded racist language, complaints about certain people ruining flights. Her life became public property. Day 4. The Department of Transportation opened an investigation. Federal violation of passenger rights. The FAA followed. Review of her certification. Day 5. The FBI Civil Rights Division got involved. Hate incident on federal aircraft. Naomi received constant calls, reporters, lawyers, advocacy groups. She declined the most. Released one statement through Skyward's PR. "What happened to my son happens to black families every day, usually without cameras, without witnesses willing to speak, without parents who have power to demand accountability. This isn't about one bad employee. This is about systems that protect racism." The statement went viral. Day 7. Skyward announced a comprehensive internal investigation. External ethics firm hired. Former federal judge leading review. Every complaint in Rebecca's 15-year file would be re-examined. Dennis Morrison, regional manager, placed on administrative leave. His emails were subpoenaed. Evidence damning. "Bury this one too, she's just another angry passenger." "Morrison's good. Don't let them ruin her career over nothing." 27 complaints. 27 times he'd chosen his sister-in-law over justice. Day 10. Other victims came forward. Janet Williams, the woman who missed her mother's funeral. Tearful ABC News interview. "I never got to say goodbye to my mama, because that woman decided I didn't belong." Marcus Thompson's father on CBS, his son beside him, 12 years old. "He stopped wanting to fly. Said he didn't feel safe. He's 12. He shouldn't feel that way." Dr. James Carter on NPR, calm, measured. "I'm a cardiac surgeon. I've saved hundreds of lives. But to her, I wasn't good enough for business class." One by one, 27 voices, no longer silenced. Day 14. State prosecutors filed charges: assault and battery of a minor, child endangerment, civil rights violation with federal enhancement. Rebecca's lawyer issued a statement. Stress, anxiety, deep regret, good person who made a mistake. The internet didn't buy it. Day 21. Trial date set. 3 months away. Cook County Criminal Court. Naomi met with prosecution. Brought everything. Videos, medical photos, passenger statements, personnel files, emails. Lead prosecutor Angela Rivera. Black woman, 30 years experience, civil rights specialist. Strongest case I've seen in a decade, Angela said. Watched the videos again, shook her head. Jury will convict in under an hour. What's she facing? 18 months in the county jail, suspended to 6 with good behavior, 5 years probation, community service, mandatory counseling, permanent ban from authority over minors. Her certification? The FAA will revoke it. She'll never work in aviation again. Angela met Naomi's eyes. She's done, completely. Naomi nodded. Should have felt satisfying. Just felt necessary. Day 45. Skyward released investigation results. Press conference. CEO Richard Carter at the podium. We failed, Richard said. No hedging, no corporate speak. We failed 27 passengers. We failed our black employees. We failed our values. He announced changes. Mandatory body cameras for crew. Real-time complaint tracking. Third-party review board. Zero tolerance with teeth. Rebecca Morrison's employment was terminated. Dennis Morrison's employment terminated. 4 other managers are under investigation. He looked at cameras. To everyone hurt by our failures, I'm sorry. Sorry isn't enough. But it's where we start. Media response is cautiously positive. Some praised transparency. Others said too little, too late. Day 60. Dennis Morrison charged with fraud and obstruction. Using position to protect his sister-in-law, destroying evidence, intimidating complainants. His lawyer tried negotiating. Prosecutors refused. Too public, too clear. Day 90, trial day. The courthouse was packed. Media everywhere. Protesters outside with signs. Justice for Elijah. Black children matter. Naomi sat in the front row. Elijah home with grandmother. Too young. Too traumatized. Prosecution presented. Video after video. The jury watched Rebecca drag Elijah. Heard her words. Saw his tears. Several jurors cried. Angela called witnesses. Passengers who recorded. Marcus the flight attendant. The paramedic. Then Janet Williams. Marcus Thompson's father. Dr. James Carter. One by one. Pattern undeniable. Rebecca's defense was weak. Stress. Overwork. Misunderstanding. Jury didn't buy it. Angela's closing was devastating. Played the video one final time. This is who Rebecca Morrison is when she thinks no one important is watching. This is what she does with power over the powerless. Angela pointed at the screen. That boy asked politely, explained, tried to comply. She brutalized him anyway. Why? Because she could. Because she thought she'd get away with it. Because she had 27 times before. Silence. Send a message. Tell every Rebecca Morrison in every uniform, we see you. We're recording. You will be held accountable. The jury deliberated 43 minutes. Guilty. All counts. Rebecca collapsed. Her lawyer caught her. The judge called recess. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. Judge Maria Hernandez looked at Rebecca. Something like pity, then hardened. Ms. Morrison, you abused trust to terrorize a child because of his race. 15 years to change. You chose not to. This court finds your actions reprehensible and your remorse hollow. 18 months county jail. Suspended to 6 with good behavior. 5 years probation. 500 hours of community service with children's advocacy. Permanent aviation ban. Mandatory bias training. Rebecca led away in handcuffs. Outside, Naomi gave a brief statement. This verdict doesn't erase what my son experienced, but it says clearly, abuse of power has consequences. Racism has consequences. Silence has consequences. Pause. To the 26 other victims, I see you. Your pain mattered. Your complaints mattered. You were telling the truth all along. Crowd applauded. Naomi walked to her car, got in, drove home, justice served. Finally, completely. But she knew the work wasn't done. One Rebecca Morrison, one airline, one system exposed. How many more are still hidden? She'd keep fighting, keep changing policies, keep refusing to accept that children should feel less than human. That was the real work. Justice beyond courtrooms, just beginning, 6 months later. Naomi and Elijah walked through Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson Airport. Same terminal, different energy. Elijah's hand was in hers, not clutching, not afraid, just holding. Gate B7, Skyward Airlines flight to Chicago. Same route. Everything had changed. The gate agent smiled. Young black woman, new uniform, body camera visible on her chest. "Good morning, Dr. Richardson." "Good morning, Elijah." Her voice is genuine. "We're honored to have you flying with us." Elijah smiled back, small but real. They boarded early. Flight attendants greeted them. Diverse crew. One knelt to Elijah's level. "Hi there, I'm Jessica. If you need anything at all, just let me know, okay?" "Okay, thank you." Business class. Together this time. Elijah pulled out a new book. The Universe Explained. Chapter on Galaxies. Captain's voice over the intercom. "Good morning. Captain Williams here. Smooth skies to Chicago today." Pause. "I want to acknowledge special passengers with us. Dr. Richardson and her son Elijah. Their courage 6 months ago changed our industry, made us better. Thank you for flying with us again." The cabin applauded. Elijah looked at his mom, embarrassed but proud. "Mom." She squeezed his hand. "You were brave, baby." "Still are." The flight was smooth, peaceful. Elijah read, asked about black holes. Naomi answered. They laughed together. When he needed the bathroom, a flight attendant walked with him, made sure he was comfortable, brought him back safely. Small things. They mattered. Landing in Chicago, Naomi thought about everything that changed. Rebecca Morrison served 4 months, released early, now working retail, divorced, estranged from her children. A cautionary tale. Dennis Morrison convicted, 18 months federal prison, lost everything. But the real change was bigger. Skyward became industry leader in passenger rights. Other airlines followed. American, Delta, United, all implemented body cameras. Independent review boards. Elijah's Law pending in Congress. Transparency in aviation incident reporting. Named after her son, Marcus was promoted. In-flight services manager. Led diversity training nationwide. Taught others to intervene. Page completed retraining. Now actively intervened. Never stay silent. Never. The 6 recording passengers got lifetime companion passes. More importantly, they learned about witnessing matters. Janet Williams flew to her mother's grave, posted a photo. "Finally got to say goodbye, Mama. Justice took time, but it came." Marcus Thompson, the 12-year-old, started flying again. His father sent Naomi a photo, the boy smiling. "He feels safe again. Thank you." Dr. James Carter wrote an op-ed. "Individual courage revealed systemic rot, but we need structural change, accountability in every system." Required reading in aviation management programs now. Naomi's book, Turbulence to Transformation, hit bestseller lists. She donated proceeds to civil rights organizations, to families without platforms, without power. Deplaning in Chicago, Elijah walked confidently. No fear. Just a boy who survived and came out stronger. A young black mother approached. Her son is beside her. "Dr. Richardson?" Voice shaking. "Thank you. My son and I were on a flight last month. The flight attendant was rude, started escalating. But another passenger spoke up, recorded. Said they knew our rights. Said they'd seen what happened to you and wouldn't let it happen again." She wiped tears. Because of you, my son didn't go through what yours did. Naomi hugged her. That's what justice looks like. Not just punishing the guilty, teaching everyone to do better. The woman left. Her son waved at Elijah. Elijah waved back. They collected bags, headed to the car. Naomi looked at Elijah in the mirror. How do you feel? He thought about it. Good. It was good, Mom. The flight attendants were nice. It felt normal. Normal. That's all she'd wanted. For her son to feel safe. Valued. She started the engine. Her phone buzzed. Text from Angela Rivera. 3 more airlines adopted the Skyward protocols. Change is spreading. Naomi smiled. Typed back. Good, but we're not done. But we're not. Ye, never done. But we're winning. Progress. Definitely. Naomi drove. Elijah hummed in the back seat. She thought about Rebecca. The 27 victims. Every person is made to feel small by someone with a uniform and a grudge. About systems that protected power instead of people. About how one video, one voice, one refusal could change everything. Baby, you know what you taught me? What? Power isn't just about who's in charge. It's about who decides enough is enough. He looked up. I decided? You did. When you asked for help. When you told the truth. When you didn't let her make you feel ashamed. That was power. He nodded. Cool. They drove home. Together. Safe. Changed but not broken. Behind them, an industry reformed. Policies rewritten. Camera recording. Witnesses watching. Justice wasn't a moment. It was a movement. And it started with one mother who refused to let her child be invisible. If this story moved you, share it. For every child who needs to know, your dignity is non-negotiable. Comment below. Have you witnessed discrimination in travel? Like, if you believe accountability matters. Subscribe for stories where justice prevails. Share with someone who needs reminding. Speaking up changes everything. Here's my question. If Rebecca Morrison had dragged your child down that aisle, and no one with power was watching, would your story end differently? How many Rebecca Morrisons are still out there? Protected, enabled, unchallenged? Power isn't just authority. It's refusing to accept that anyone deserves less than dignity. Sometimes that person is a CEO. Sometimes it's just a mother who said enough. Justice delayed is justice denied. But justice documented is justice delivered.
At Black Voices Uncut, we don't polish away the pain or water down the message. We tell it like it is because the truth deserves nothing less. If today's story spoke to you, click like, join the conversation in the comments, and subscribe so you'll be here for the next Uncut Voice.
She doesn't belong here, the attorney whispers, not quite under his breath, as 17-year-old Nia Matthews steps into the mahogany-paneled office. Her rain-damp sneakers squeak against the marble floor, drawing irritated glances from the collection of suits gathered around an imposing conference table. The air feels heavy with the suffocating smell of old leather and privilege, pressing down on her shoulders like an invisible weight. The receptionist's handshake is cold and brief as she gestures Nia toward a chair in the corner, far from the table where the real business will happen. Mr. Caldwell will begin shortly, she says with practiced politeness that doesn't reach her eyes. Nia straightens her blazer, thrifted but carefully pressed, and takes her seat, feeling the weight of stares from the Burke and Caldwell families. The prestigious law firm of Caldwell and Burke is hosting the reading of wealthy philanthropist Eleanor Burke's will, and Nia is the only person of color in the room. William Caldwell, senior partner and executor of the estate, barely acknowledges her presence. His eyes skip over her as he greets the other attendees, his handshakes growing progressively warmer as he moves from acquaintances to family members. When Bradford Burke enters, Eleanor's stepson and heir apparent, Caldwell embraces him like a son. "Shall we begin?" Caldwell announces to the room, still not looking in Naya's direction. "We're all anxious to put dear Eleanor's affairs in order." Nia's mind drifts back to 6 months earlier, when she first met Eleanor Burke at the Westside Community Center. At 75, Eleanor was still elegant and sharp-minded, volunteering weekly to teach art classes to underprivileged teens. Most students were drawn to her famous name and connection to the Burke banking fortune, but Nia was captivated by Eleanor's encyclopedic knowledge of literature and art history. "You have questions in your eyes, young lady?" Eleanor had said during their first real conversation. "Good. Never stop questioning what you see." What began as casual discussions about books evolved into mentorship. Eleanor recognized something in Nia that others often overlooked. Beneath her quiet demeanor lay fierce intelligence, perfect recall, and unwavering integrity. They would spend hours in conversation after classes, discussing everything from Renaissance art to modern social justice movements. "Memory is power, young lady," Eleanor told her once, blue eyes intense beneath silver hair. "The ability to remember what others choose to forget is how justice survives." Nia never expected to be included in Eleanor's will. The official letter requesting her presence arrived 3 days after the news of Eleanor's sudden stroke, bearing the Caldwell and Burke letterhead and a personal note in Eleanor's distinctive handwriting. "Please come, important." Her mother had warned her not to get her hopes up. "People like the Burkes don't leave anything to people like us except more disappointment," she'd said, helping Nia pick out appropriate clothes for the occasion. "But I'm proud you made such an impression on her." Nia packed her notebook, filled with meticulous, detailed entries about every conversation with Eleanor, out of habit more than expectation. Something Eleanor had once said nagged at her memory. "People show their true character when they think no one is watching, or when they think no one is remembering." Now, sitting in this room of wealth and power, Nia observes the other attendees with careful attention. William Caldwell, in his 60s, carries himself with the confident authority of someone who has spent a lifetime being right. His friendship with Eleanor dated back to childhood, yet there's something performative in his grief. Bradford Burke, 45 and impeccably groomed, radiates entitlement. Eleanor rarely spoke of her stepson, except to mention his role in running certain aspects of the Burke Foundation into the ground, according to the financial papers Nia reads religiously. His wife, Vanessa, surveys the room like she's already redecorating Eleanor's mansion in her mind. Margaret Caldwell, William's daughter and junior partner at the firm, keeps checking her watch. As Eleanor's goddaughter, she should appear more affected by the loss, but her expression suggests irritation at the inconvenience rather than grief. The grandfather clock in the corner ticks loudly, marking time. Condensation forms on the water glasses arranged precisely on the conference table. Bradford's cologne is overpowering, a sensory intrusion that makes Nia's eyes water slightly. William disappears into a side room with Bradford, their hushed voices occasionally rising before falling silent again. When they return, Bradford's face is flushed with either anger or scotch, possibly both, and William looks grim. "Before we begin," William announces, shuffling papers importantly, "there appears to be a small administrative error we should address." His eyes finally land on Nia, with the look one might give an unexpected insect at a garden party. "It seems, Miss Matthews, is it? You may have received an invitation in error. This reading is for family and named beneficiaries only." The room falls silent, all eyes turning to Nia. The grandfather clock ticks 7 times before she finds her voice. Will they even allow her to stay for the reading, or find a way to remove her entirely? "There's been no error," Nia says, her voice steady despite the sudden dryness in her throat. She reaches into her bag and produces the invitation letter. Miss Burke specifically requested my presence. See her note in the margin. William takes the letter with obvious reluctance, examining Eleanor's handwriting with a frown. He exchanges a glance with Bradford, whose jaw tightens visibly. Even so, William says, returning the letter as if it might contaminate him. This is highly unusual. Perhaps a misunderstanding on Eleanor's part. She was not always herself in her final months. He reaches into his jacket pocket. To avoid any awkwardness, we're prepared to offer you a small compensation for your inconvenience. He extends a check, already prepared. $500. A dismissal fee. Ms. Burke told me she had something important to tell me after she was gone, Nia says, making no move to take the check. She made me promise to be here. William's smile tightens. I was Eleanor's attorney and confidant for 40 years, Miss Matthews. I believe I understand her intentions better than someone she met only recently. Let the girl stay, William, Margaret interjects, her tone suggesting boredom rather than support. If it was Eleanor's wish, what's the harm? We have nothing to hide. Bradford snorts but says nothing, pouring himself a drink from the sideboard. Very well, William concedes, returning the check to his pocket. But please understand this is unusual. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable over there. He gestures to a chair in the far corner, away from the main conference table. Nia takes the seat, pulling out her notebook and pen. William's eyes narrow slightly at this, but he turns to address the room. Ladies and gentlemen, we're gathered today to execute the last will and testament of Eleanor Catherine Burke, who left us too soon at the age of 75. William details Eleanor's life accomplishments, her marriage to banking magnate Richard Burke, her philanthropy work after his death, her tireless support of the arts and education. He speaks warmly of her generosity and vision, carefully avoiding mention of her sometimes controversial social justice advocacy. As to the distribution of Eleanor's estate, valued at approximately $75 million, William continues, opening an embossed leather portfolio, the bulk will be distributed as follows. He proceeds to outline allocations. The Burke Mansion to Bradford, investment portfolios split between Bradford and the Burke Foundation, personal items to various friends and family members. No mention of Nia. Additionally, William says, turning a page, Eleanor established a significant portion of her liquid assets to be controlled by a special trustee named in a separate codicil to ensure proper oversight of certain charitable initiatives. William pauses, shuffling through papers with increasing agitation, which appears to be... One moment, please. Bradford leans forward. Is there a problem? A minor issue, William says, though his expression suggests otherwise. It seems the codicil is not in this file. Missing? Margaret asks sharply. Temporarily misplaced, William corrects, rifling through his briefcase beneath the table. Administrative error. Nothing to concern ourselves with. Perhaps we should proceed without it, Bradford suggests, a little too quickly. The main points are clear, and administrative details can be sorted later. From her corner seat, Nia notices William subtly sliding papers into his briefcase beneath the table. His right hand trembles slightly, the only crack in his composed facade. Ice cubes clink in Bradford's third scotch. The leather armrests feel tight beneath Nia's grip as she watches this performance unfold, remembering Eleanor's words. The powerful assume no one is paying attention to the details. Will anyone else notice the missing documents being hidden away? I might have a solution, Margaret announces, opening her laptop. I have access to Eleanor's digital files. Perhaps the codicil is there. The screen casts a blue glow on Margaret's face as she navigates through folders. Here we are, last updated 3 months ago. She turns the screen toward the room, displaying a legal document. As William continues reading from this version, Nia notices discrepancies between what he's saying now and what he had begun reading from the paper version. "Excuse me," Nia says during a pause. "The date on that digital version? It's different from the one you were reading earlier." The room falls silent. Willem's smile doesn't reach his eyes. "I'm sorry?" "The paper copy you were reading listed April 12th as the execution date," Nia says. "The screen shows January 28th. William's laugh is dismissive. "You must have misheard. Legal terminology can be confusing to lay people." "Why is she even still here?" Bradford interrupts, voice rising. "This is a family matter. The girl clearly misunderstood her relationship with my stepmother." "Bradford, please," William cautions before turning to Nia. "Perhaps it would be best if you waited outside while we clarify some technical matters. Legal proceedings can be tedious." "I can have my assistant bring you some refreshments," Vanessa offers with a smile that doesn't touch her eyes. "Perhaps we could offer the girl a more substantial token?" Eleanor always had a soft spot for charity cases. Nia feels her cheeks warm but keeps her expression neutral, watching Margaret's manicured nails clicking rapidly on the laptop keys. The fluorescent light overhead buzzes and flickers when the air conditioning cycles on, casting momentary shadows across worried faces. The taste in Nia's mouth is dry, cottony, with the realization of what's happening. She needed the words promptly said. No. Will Nia stand up to these powerful people who are clearly manipulating Eleanor's final wishes? "I'll wait," Neil says, closing her notebook but not moving toward the door. "Miss Burke wanted me here for the entire proceeding." The room clears for a brief recess, leaving Nia alone with her thoughts. Through the partially open door, she hears harsh whispers exchanged between William and Bradford. The words "problem" and "unexpected complication" drift through the gap. When Bradford returns alone, his smile is all teeth, a predator's warning display. He closes the door behind him and takes the seat next to Nia. "You seem like a smart girl," he begins, voice low and conspiratorial. "Smart enough to understand opportunity when it presents itself." He names a figure, $250,000, for her to leave immediately and sign a non-disclosure agreement. "A life-changing amount for someone in your position," he adds, eyes flicking to her worn sneakers. "You played it well," Bradford continues, misreading her silence. "We both know what you were doing, cozying up to a lonely old lady. Smart hustle, but it's over now." The accusation stings worse than the attempted bribe. Nia straightens her shoulders. "Ms. Burke valued honesty above all else. I won't dishonor her memory by accepting hush money." Bradford's facade cracks, revealing the anger beneath. "You have no idea who you're dealing with. The Burkes and Caldwells built this city. We can open doors, or close them permanently." "Mrs. Burke said you'd say almost exactly that," Nia responds quietly. "She prepared me for this conversation." Bradford's expression flickers. Surprise, then calculation. He stands abruptly. "Your choice. Remember it when you're back to shelving books at the community center." Will Bradford's threat push Nia to retreat, or does she have a counter-move planned? Left alone again, Nia's confidence wavers. She finds a quiet alcove near a window overlooking the rain-slicked financial district and takes several deep breaths. Maybe she has misunderstood Eleanor's intentions. Maybe she's in over her head. The weight of being the only black person in a room where no one believes she belongs presses down on her. $250,000 is more money than anyone in her family has ever seen at once. It could pay for college, help her mother with bills, create security. Her shallow breathing echoes in the small space. She feels the weight of Eleanor's fountain pen in her pocket, a gift from their last meeting. Outside, traffic resumes after a momentary lull in the rain, car horns and engines creating a distant urban symphony. From the conference room, she hears Bradford's laugh, confident, unconcerned. He believes she'll take the money. They all do. Nia's mind drifts back 6 weeks before Eleanor's death. The older woman had invited her to the Burke Mansion library, a 2-story marvel of oak shelving and leather-bound volumes that smelled of history and lemon polish. Rain tapped against leaded glass windows as Eleanor showed Nia her collection of first-edition books and family documents dating back generations. "Most people think wealth just happens," Eleanor had said, carefully opening a ledger from the 1950s. "But fortunes have origins, and not all are honorable." Eleanor revealed how her husband's family built their banking empire. Behind the philanthropic facade lay decades of redlining, systematically denying mortgages to black families regardless of their qualifications. The Burke Bank specialized in predatory loans in predominantly black neighborhoods, charging exorbitant interest rates while funding white flight to the suburbs. "Richard never spoke of it," Eleanor said, her fingers tracing columns of numbers and addresses. "But after he died, I found these records. The Burke fortune was built on injustice, but money that created wounds can also heal them, if directed by the right hands." That day, Eleanor had asked Nia unusual questions about her memory, testing her with pages of numbers and addresses. Impressed by Nia's perfect recall, Eleanor began sharing specific documents, account numbers and legal details. "Just in case," she'd said cryptically. "Sometimes the people we trust most are the ones we should trust least." Before Nia left that day, Eleanor pressed her personal fountain pen into her hand. Sometimes justice requires a perfect memory and the courage to use it at precisely the right moment. Now, standing in the law firm's alcove, Nia understands what Eleanor had been preparing her for. She reaches into her bag and pulls out her notebook, reviewing her meticulous notes from every conversation. Patterns emerge, confirming of what she'd begun to suspect during the will reading. Eleanor had anticipated this exact scenario: the missing codicil, William's deception, Bradford's threats. She'd been laying groundwork for months, preparing Nia without explicitly telling her why. At the bottom of her notebook, Nia finds a sealed envelope Eleanor had given her 3 months ago with instructions: "Open only if they try to change my wishes." Her hands shake slightly as she breaks the seal. Inside is a letter, in Eleanor's precise handwriting and a small thumb drive. "Dear Nia, if you're reading this, they've done exactly what I feared. William has likely misplaced the codicil naming you trustee of the Eleanor Burke Justice Initiative. Bradford has probably offered you money to disappear. They believe you'll be intimidated by their power and position. They underestimate you, as the privileged often underestimate those they've been taught not to see. What they don't know is that I've been documenting Bradford's embezzlement from the Foundation for years. William has been complicit, helping hide assets and facilitate tax fraud. The thumb drive contains everything: banking records, altered documents, recorded conversations. A complete copy is with my personal attorney, Daniel Chen, with instructions to deliver it to the district attorney if the terms of my will are contested. This isn't about money. It's about justice, for the communities the Burke fortune was built by exploiting. You understand this in ways Bradford and William never could. Remember everything I showed you. Trust your memory. Your voice matters, more than they can imagine. With faith in your courage, Eleanor." Nia feels the cool metal of the thumb drive against her palm as she closes her fingers around it. From the conference room comes the sound of raised voices. William trying to bring the proceedings to a hasty conclusion. She makes her decision. This isn't about money. It's about honoring what Ms. Burke really wanted, and she wanted Nia to speak truth to power. Nia walks confidently back into the main room, where William is preparing documents for signatures. The tension is palpable. Bradford and Margaret whispering urgently, Vanessa texting rapidly on her phone. Miss Matthews? William says with artificial brightness. We're just wrapping up. As we discussed, Eleanor's primary bequests have been established. You're welcome to stay for the signing if you wish, though it's merely administrative at this point. Actually, Nia says, her voice stronger than she feels, I'd like to review the will one final time, out of curiosity. William's smile doesn't reach his eyes. Of course, though the legal language can be quite dense for someone unfamiliar with estate law. He slides a document toward her with patronizing indulgence. Nia glances at it briefly, then begins speaking. I, Eleanor Catherine Burke, being of sound mind and body, do hereby bequeath the following assets and responsibilities, she recites, not looking at the paper. To my stepson, Bradford Richard Burke, I leave my residence at 1782 Lakeshore Drive and its contents, with the exception of items specifically designated elsewhere in this document. William's smile falters as Nia continues reciting word for word sections of the will, including passages that match what's written, but contradict what William had summarized. Furthermore, Nia continues, I establish the Eleanor Burke Justice Initiative, to be funded with 50% of my liquid assets, approximately $37 million. The initiative shall focus on addressing systemic inequalities in banking, housing, and education within communities historically harmed by discriminatory practices. William attempts to interrupt. This is highly irregular and unnecessary. The initiative, Nia continues steadily, shall be overseen by a trustee of my selection, who has demonstrated the intelligence, integrity, and commitment to justice necessary for this responsibility. The room grows still. Bradford's face flushes dark red. Margaret's fingers pause over her laptop keyboard. What game is this? Bradford demands, looking to William. Where is she getting this? I'm just making sure nothing was forgotten, Nia says, meeting William's gaze directly. Ms. Burke valued accuracy. She said her memory was fading, but mine isn't. This is absurd, Bradford interrupts, standing so quickly his chair rolls backward. Are we really letting this girl dictate how we proceed? No one moves. The only sound is the faint squeak of William's palm against his water glass as sweat transfers from his skin to the crystal. Nia's steady voice cuts through the tension like a blade. I have an eidetic memory, she explains. I remember everything I read or hear verbatim. The realization dawns on William's face first. What this means. What Nia knows. I spent 6 months with Ms. Burke, Nia continues. She shared stories, documents, and plans in detail. She showed me every page of her will, the real one, and made sure I remembered it exactly. William forces a laugh. A remarkable claim, but ultimately irrelevant. The official will is what matters, legally, not your recollections. I thought you might say that. Nia removes Eleanor's letter from her bag. Ms. Burke left this for me, in case her wishes were ignored. William dismisses it with a wave. Anyone could fabricate such a document. Note the handwriting, Nia says, sliding it toward Margaret. The way she crosses her T's with a slight upward flick. The distinctive loop on her capital E's. Details only someone intimately familiar with her writing would recognize. Margaret examines it, then looks up at her father with uncertainty. And this? Nia adds, placing the thumb drive on the table. Contains recordings of my conversations with Ms. Burke, including her concerns that her will might be altered after her death. The color drains from William's face as Bradford looks between them in growing alarm. My name appears on every page of her true will, as trustee, not beneficiary. A heavy silence blankets the room. William and Bradford exchange panicked looks as the implications sink in. Nia stands her ground, Eleanor's fountain pen now in her hand, a talisman of the older woman's faith in her. This is preposterous, William finally sputters. A teenager with no legal training cannot possibly serve as trustee for a multi-million-dollar foundation. The court would never allow it. Mrs. Burke anticipated that objection, Nia responds calmly. 6 months ago, she began recording every conversation where you discussed the foundation's finances, including the one where you advised Bradford on how to reallocate funds, from the education initiative to his personal accounts. Bradford's glass hits the table with a sharp crack. You're making dangerous accusations, girl. I'm stating facts, Mr. Burke. Facts I can prove. Nia opens her notebook to a tabbed section. On March 12th, the Burke Foundation transferred $450,000, 0 cents earmarked for college scholarships, to Oceanic Partners, LLC, a shell company you control through your Cayman Islands account. The precision of her details silences him momentarily. This is all easily explained, William interjects, but his usual confidence has evaporated. Foundation finances are complex, like the $1,200,000 0 cents art acquisition that never actually happened, Nia asks, or the consulting fees paid to Bradford's college roommate for services never rendered. Margaret stares at her father, comprehension dawning on her face. Dad, what is she talking about? William ignores his daughter, focusing on damage control. These are serious allegations that would require substantial proof. Ms. Burke hired Mackenzie Financial Forensics 6 months ago, Nia says. Their complete audit is in the hands of Daniel Chen, with instructions to deliver it to the district attorney if her will is contested or if anything happens to me. Vanessa, who has been unusually quiet, suddenly stands. Bradford, what have you done? Her voice carries genuine shock. Apparently, she hadn't been privy to her husband's financial manipulations. Sit down, Bradford hisses. This is a bluff. Check your phone, Nia suggests. Look up Daniel Chen, attorney. His office is 3 blocks from here. Ms. Burke made me memorize his number. Would you like me to recite it? The grandfather clock chooses this moment to stop mid-chime, the sudden silence accentuating the tension. William reaches for his water with shaking hands. Bradford's face has drained of color. You said you're not a beneficiary, Margaret says slowly. What exactly did my godmother intend? Nia takes a deep breath. The moment Eleanor had prepared her for has arrived. Mrs. Burke's true will divides her estate differently than what Mr. Caldwell presented. 30% goes to Bradford, contingent on his resignation from the foundation board. 20% to charitable causes she supported during her lifetime, Nia pauses. And 50% establishes the Eleanor Burke Justice Initiative, a new organization focused on addressing systemic inequalities in banking, housing, and education. With you as trustee, William says flatly. With me as trustee, alongside a board of community leaders Miss Burke personally selected. This is legally impossible, William insists. You're a minor. Ms. Burke said you'd call me too young, too inexperienced, too everything, Nia replies evenly. She also said to remind you that she was 19 when she took control of her first trust fund, against everyone's advice. Age wasn't the real objection then, and it isn't now. She produces another document from her notebook, a letter from a competing law firm that Eleanor had consulted. Everything is legally sound. Ms. Burke established the groundwork months ago, including petitioning for my legal emancipation, which was granted last month, specifically to allow me to serve in this capacity. Margaret takes the document, scans it professionally. This appears legitimate, she admits reluctantly. This is absurd, Bradford erupts. I'll contest this immediately. The courts will never contest it, and the forensic accounting report goes public, Nia says quietly. Every misappropriated dollar, every fraudulent transaction, every tax document William helped you falsify, all of it becomes public record. Bradford falls silent, the threat landing with precision. You're asking me to walk away from what's rightfully mine, he finally says. No. Miss Burke is offering you 30% of her estate, approximately $22 million, in exchange for your resignation from all Burke enterprises. That seems generous, considering the alternatives. William, ever the attorney, searches for leverage. What's to prevent us from challenging your recollection? Memory, even exceptional memory, isn't admissible as evidence without corroboration. The thumb drive, Nia reminds him, and Ms. Burke's personal files, which contain copies of everything she showed me, and the fact that I've been recording this entire meeting. She touches the pen in her hand. Digital recorder. Ms. Burke thought of everything. For the first time, real fear crosses William's face. Decades of careful reputation management could collapse with a single news cycle. What do you want? He asks bluntly. Exactly what Ms. Burke wanted. Justice, not revenge. William, Bradford, and Margaret exchange glances, silently calculating their options and finding none. We need to confer, William announces, his voice hollow. They retreat to a side office, leaving Nia alone with Vanessa, who studies her with new eyes. She really prepared you for this, Vanessa says, not a question but a realization. Nia nods. She said you weren't involved in Bradford's financial schemes. I suspected, but... Vanessa shakes her head. The Burke name opens doors. I didn't want to look too closely at how the keys were made. When the others return 20 minutes later, their body language tells the story before they speak. Defeat radiates from their postures. But William's legal mind has formulated a counteroffer. We're prepared to accept these terms, he says stiffly, with one condition. You sign an NDA regarding Bradford's financial irregularities. No, Nia responds immediately. Transparency is non-negotiable. Then we have no deal, Bradford snaps. I'll take my chances in court. However, Nia continues, ignoring him, I can offer a compromise. Mr. Burke quietly returns all misappropriated funds to the foundation, resigns from all Burke enterprises, and the foundation undergoes a public restructuring with new leadership. In exchange, I won't actively publicize past misconduct unless challenged again. And William? Margaret asks, clearly concerned about her father's exposure. Ms. Burke didn't want destruction, Nia says, meeting William's eyes. She wanted correction. This isn't about revenge. It's about restoration. The scratching of pens on signature pages fills the next hour as attorneys are called, documents revised, and agreements executed. With each signature, the weight on Nia's shoulders lightens incrementally. Outside, traffic resumes its normal flow as the rain finally stops. I'll need all foundation records transferred to Daniel Chen's office by tomorrow, Nia says as the final document is signed, and written confirmation of Bradford's resignation to be delivered to the board members. William nods stiffly. Professional to the end, he extends his hand to Nia. Eleanor always did have an eye for unexpected talent. It's as close to a concession speech as she'll get from him. 1 week later, Nia stands at a podium in the Burke Foundation headquarters, announcing the formation of the Eleanor Burke Justice Initiative. Camera flashes punctuate her speech as reporters crowd the conference room. Bradford is noticeably absent. William stands in the background, diminished but present in his new role as transitional counsel. The initiative will focus on 3 primary areas, Nia explains, her voice steady despite the national media attention. First, investing in historically redlined neighborhoods through community development and homeownership programs. Second, providing legal aid to victims of predatory lending. And third, educational opportunities focused on economic justice and financial literacy. Questions come rapid fire from the assembled press. How does a teenager become trustee of a multi-million-dollar foundation? What qualifications do you have for this role? Is it true Bradford Burke has resigned from all Burke enterprises? Nia handles each with the poise Eleanor had recognized in her. Ms. Burke believed wealth created through injustice must be redistributed with justice. This isn't charity, it's correction. The media reaction is predictably mixed. Some outlets praise the initiative's mission and Eleanor's visionary appointment. Others question Nia's qualifications, suggesting the arrangement won't last. A few business publications note Bradford's abrupt retirement, with thinly veiled speculation about the reasons. But Eleanor's old friends from arts and philanthropy circles publicly rally around Nia. Several come forward with stories of how Eleanor had been quietly preparing her protégé for months, impressed by her intelligence, integrity, and perfect recall. Eleanor told me at Christmas that she'd found her successor, says Margaret Chen, Daniel's wife and Eleanor's oldest friend. She said, "I've found someone who remembers what others choose to forget, and that's exactly what this world needs." 3 months later, the initiative launches its first programs. In a converted bank building in the heart of a historically red-line district, Nia cuts the ribbon on a community financial center offering microloans to Black-owned businesses. The crowd's applause echoes through the space, where Eleanor's portrait now hangs in what was once the bank president's office. The initiative's legal aid program has already prevented dozens of predatory foreclosures, while its educational scholarships focus on students committed to careers in economic justice. Nia works alongside experienced advisors, including some of Eleanor's most trusted colleagues, but clearly drives the vision. The professional consequences for those who tried to subvert Eleanor's wishes are substantial, but not catastrophic, exactly as Eleanor had intended. William's firm loses the Burke account. Margaret leaves to start her own practice, distancing herself from her father's ethical compromises. Bradford and Vanessa divorce amid financial scrutiny, their social standing diminished but not destroyed. "Is it what you expected?" Daniel Chen asks Nia after the ribbon-cutting ceremony, as they watch community members explore the new financial center. "Not entirely," Nia admits. "When Ms. Burke first started showing me those documents, I thought she was just teaching me about history. I never imagined she was preparing me to make history. She saw something in you that reminded her of herself," Daniel says. "The courage to stand up when everyone expects you to sit down." The converted bank, once a symbol of exclusion, hums with new activity. Loan officers who reflect the community they serve meet with entrepreneurs. Financial literacy classes fill the former vault space. On the walls, infographics detail the history of redlining in the city, acknowledging the past while creating pathways to a different future. This transformation, from instrument of inequality to tool for justice, embodies everything Eleanor had envisioned, and at its center stands Nia, the unlikely trustee whose perfect memory ensured that the truth could not be erased or rewritten. Will Bradford and William accept these terms, or risk everything in a public legal battle they cannot win? They had no choice but to accept. The evidence was too damning, the consequences of fighting too severe. Eleanor had outmaneuvered them from beyond the grave, using the very qualities they dismissed, youth, race, outsider status, as the instruments of her justice. 1 year passes. The Eleanor Burke Justice Initiative marks its anniversary with impressive metrics. 50 new Black-owned businesses launched with microloans, 217 families saved from predatory foreclosures, and scholarship recipients already making waves in economic policy circles. Nia, now 18, balances her trustee responsibilities with her freshman year at the local university, where she studies economics and social justice. Her tuition covered not by Eleanor's money, but by a prestigious merit scholarship she earned on her own. On a crisp autumn morning, Nia visits Eleanor's grave. The marble headstone stands beneath an old oak tree, simple despite the wealth of the woman it commemorates. Nia places fresh flowers beside it and sits on the nearby bench, the leather of her journal cool against her hands. The foundation board tried to block the redlining documentation project, she says conversationally to the headstone. They said it would damage the Burke legacy. I reminded them that acknowledging truth is the only way to heal from it. She smiles slightly. They didn't argue after that. Fallen leaves crunch beneath her feet as she shifts position. The morning sun breaks through the branches, casting dappled light across the grave marker. Bradford called last week, she continues. He's moved to Europe, said he wanted to extend an olive branch. I think he's worried about the NDA expiring next year. She pauses. I told him the initiative isn't interested in revenge, just in making things right. I think you would have approved. From her bag, Neo removes Eleanor's fountain pen, the one that secretly recorded the will-reading confrontation. She places it gently on the headstone, the metal gleaming in the sunlight. You were right, Ms. Burke, she says softly. Memory is power, especially when others are counting on selective forgetting. As she walks away, the pen remains, a small monument to the woman whose legacy has transformed from wealthy philanthropist to justice pioneer. Local media coverage of the initiative's first year highlights the tangible changes in communities historically excluded from economic opportunity. The Burke name, once associated primarily with banking power, now increasingly connects to concepts of restoration and equity. What makes the initiative different, explains Dr. James Washington, professor of economic history at the City University, is its acknowledgement of how wealth was accumulated in the first place. By naming redlining and predatory lending explicitly in its mission, the Burke Initiative sets a new standard for philanthropic accountability. Not everyone celebrates this evolution. Several former Burke Foundation board members resigned rather than participate in what one called historical revisionism. The financial industry's old guard views the initiative's transparency about banking's transcriminatory past with discomfort. Anonymous quotes in business publications question whether a teenager with a grudge should control such significant resources. But the results speak for themselves. Property values in initiative-targeted neighborhoods have increased without triggering displacement. Small business survival rates exceed national averages. Community members speak of renewed hope and opportunity. My grandmother tried to get a business loan from Burke Bank in 1963, says Desiree Williams, who recently opened a tech training center with initiative support. They denied her 27 times, despite her perfect credit. 60 years later, her granddaughter gets funding from Burke money to create jobs in the same neighborhood they redlined. That's not just poetic justice, it's healing across generations. William Caldwell's law firm continues to lose clients as his reputation suffers from whispered associations with financial impropriety. Though no charges were ever filed, part of Nia's compromise, his influence has waned considerably. Margaret's independent practice thrives, however, as she builds a reputation for ethical corporate governance. Bradford and Vanessa's divorce becomes final, with financial terms sealed by the court. Vanessa resurfaces in the social circuit, carefully rebranding herself as an advocate for financial literacy for women. Bradford rarely returns to the States, managing what remains of his inheritance from various European tax havens. The Burke Mansion, which Bradford sold to cover tax obligations, becomes headquarters for a coalition of civil rights organizations, purchased with initiative funds and renamed the Eleanor Burke Center for Justice. For Nia personally, the year brings challenges alongside success. The initial flood of media attention included both profiles celebrating her as a wunderkind and hit pieces questioning her legitimacy. Security concerns necessitated moving her mother to a new home after several threatening letters. The weight of responsibility sometimes keeps her awake at night, wondering if her decisions would meet Eleanor's approval. But there are victories that confirm she's on the right path. Like the afternoon an elderly black woman approached her after a community meeting, gripping Nia's hands in her own. My husband and I tried to buy a house in Lakeview in 1956, the woman told her. Burke Bank said the neighborhood was restricted. We had the money, but not the right skin color. Today, I watched you fund 20 new black homeowners in that same neighborhood. Never thought I'd live to see it. These moments sustain Nia through the criticism and pressure. Eleanor's vision becomes clearer. With each project launched, each life improved. In a symbolic move marking the initiative's anniversary, Nia announces a formal investigation into the Burke Bank's historical lending practices, with findings to be made public, regardless of what they reveal. True reconciliation requires truth, she states at the press conference. We cannot address systemic inequality without understanding how it was systematically created. William Caldwell watches the announcement on television from his significantly downsized office, the final Burke family portraits having been removed from his walls months earlier. His phone hasn't rung all day, a stark contrast to his once buzzy practice. Eleanor's oldest friends from philanthropy circles gather for a private dinner celebrating the initiative's first year. They raise glasses to her memory, sharing stories of her quiet determination and strategic mind. She always played the long game, one reminisces. While everyone else was thinking about the next quarter, Eleanor was thinking about the next quarter century. To Eleanor, they toast, who found the perfect heir not in her family but in her values. As the initiative enters its second year, its example inspires other wealthy families to examine the origins of their fortunes. Two major foundations announced similar investigations into their historical connections to discriminatory practices. A national conversation begins about whether acknowledgement of past harms should be a standard component of philanthropic work. Eleanor's legacy expands beyond what even she might have imagined, a ripple effect of remembering what others had chosen to forget. 5 years after the confrontation in that mahogany-paneled office, Nia Matthews stands at a university podium, delivering a commencement address to graduating economics students. At 22, she's become a respected voice in the field of reparative economics, while maintaining her role as trustee of the now nationally recognized Eleanor Burke Justice Initiative. And justice requires both perfect memory and the courage to speak truth aloud, she tells the graduates, Eleanor's fountain pen, now retired from recording duties but carried as a talisman, clipped to her graduation gown. We cannot build a fair future on foundations of convenient forgetting. A small circle forms out. The initiative's work has expanded beyond the city limits, creating a template for similar programs nationwide. Its most significant achievement, the Restoration Mapping Project, which meticulously documents historical redlining in 50 major cities and establishes targeted investment zones based on documented discrimination. 10 banks have signed on to prioritize lending in these areas, with accountability metrics designed by initiative researchers. Bradford Burke hasn't returned to the United States in 4 years. William Caldwell retired quietly, his legal legacy permanently tarnished by whispers that never quite became public scandal. Exactly the balance of justice and mercy Eleanor had envisioned. The converted bank building that houses the initiative's headquarters has become a community hub. In what was once the bank manager's office, where countless black mortgage applicants heard no despite their qualifications, Nia meets weekly with community leaders to ensure the initiative's work remains grounded in real needs rather than abstract theories. Eleanor believed wealth should circulate like oxygen, reaching every corner of the community, Nia explains to visitors touring the facility. Not pooling in privileged pockets while others struggle to breathe. Academics study the Burke model of acknowledging historical wealth extraction before implementing wealth redistribution. Financial institutions reluctantly face increasing pressure to examine their own histories. The conversation about economic justice has evolved, not solved, but irreversibly changed. On the 5th anniversary of the initiative's founding, Nia receives an unexpected package. Inside, she finds Vanessa Burke's diary from the years of her marriage to Bradford, documenting financial manipulations she observed but didn't understand at the time. A note accompanies it. For the archives, some of us are still learning how to remember honestly. The true power of Eleanor's strategy reveals itself not just in dollars redistributed, but in narratives reclaimed. The story of the Burke fortune has been permanently rewritten, not erased, but completed, with chapters long omitted from official accounts. For every viewer who has stayed with this story, ask yourself, what histories are we collectively choosing to forget? What truths remain unspoken in your community? The courage to remember accurately when others insist on convenient forgetting is a form of power available to each of us. Memory becomes revolutionary when systems depend on amnesia. Here at Beat Stories, we believe in the power of narratives that expose injustice and celebrate resilience. Stories that don't just entertain, but transform how we see the systems shaping our world. If you've experienced financial discrimination or witnessed it happening to others, share your story in the comments below. Let others know they're not alone. Every week, Beat Stories brings you accounts of people who refused to accept the status quo, people who found ways to fight back against systems designed to exclude them. Subscribe to Beat Stories for more narratives of justice and systemic change, because sometimes the most powerful form of revenge isn't personal payback. It's changing the system that made the injustice possible in the first place.
Every time someone stands up, speaks out, or refuses to be erased, a new story is born. At Beat Stories, we archive that courage. Subscribe now and help us keep these moments alive, because the more we share them, the harder they are to ignore.